It's 4:45. Good afternoon. In an hour, we'll be looking at the fallouts from PMQs this afternoon as Keir Starmer took questions on what he knew about Mandelson and when. Now, though, let's look at Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor. He has moved to Sandringham in Norfolk. The former prince is under the most intense scrutiny now, again, following emails and photographs, new photographs, published in the Epstein files. He denies any wrongdoing. We've been to Sandringham today. This is what some people who were visiting think about the move he's made.
I don't think I'd be feel exiled where he's living now or where he's going to be living. I'd be quite happy living here, so being here, which I am. So
it's his home, so he has every right to be here. It might cause a little bit of disturbance and publicity, but it'll bring something to the community, so...
I mean, there will be publicity to start with. I think it'll die down. I think the guy will keep a low profile if he's got any modicum of sense. There's loads of people come out to see the royals at Christmas and the like, but I think Andrew would be well advised to keep well away from that. Just, you're no longer really part of the establishment. You're just a Joe Public.
Ben Lord is a royal commentator from Suffolk. Ben, thank you for being with us this afternoon. You've reported on many significant events in the royal family over the years. You've been following this story closely. We presume, I guess, we're not going to see Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor anymore.
Absolutely not. We are in probably the single most unprecedented situation in terms of the royal family that we've seen in living memory of those of us that are alive today. This is an individual who was by birthright, by being born whilst his mother was on the throne, born a prince who 4 months ago was stripped of not just all of the titles and peerages that came because of that, but has also been stripped of the very birthright title that he had from the moment he was born. And I think we, much like today, we look back in the history of kings and queens going back centuries and their notoriety for what they were at that time. And I think it's fair to say that we are now in a territory where, with Prince Andrew, for generations to come, in the decades and centuries down in the future, will be looked upon with quite that unprecedented notoriety as well.
Do we think a line has been drawn under this, though, Ben? Because he's never admitted wrongdoing. Yes, he's been stripped of his titles. He still might not be being paid for by the taxpayer, but he's not exactly slumming it where he's now living. And at the same time, a large amount of money was given to Virginia Giuffre. So I wonder if there's ever still, there's still question marks over this. Is this ever really going to be resolved?
Well, it will only be resolved at such point that there's no more evidence forthcoming from the release of all the files that keep coming from stateside. In terms of what Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor's future is, he is living in a private residence to that of the monarch. The Sandringham estate has been a private residence going back to the 1860s when Prince Albert first purchased the estate. And as a member of the family, which biologically he is, it could be argued that there is a duty of care from within his family members to take care of him, irrespective of what public opinion is, irrespective of wrongdoing or not. And therefore, that is what has occurred by him being removed from Royal Lodge Windsor, which is part of the Crown estate and administered for by the government. He is now in a private area, and it is because of the status of the family that he is able to live in the affluent surroundings he has. But it's very clear that is now a private arrangement from within the family, and is not at all at the burden of the taxpayer.
Now, I've been to Sandringham several times. I had no idea that the grounds cover an area roughly the size of Nottingham. On Lucky's tonight, by the way, you can see it's all mapped out. Obviously, I can't do that on the radio. But if you have any idea, Ben, as to sort of what we know about Marsh Farm, what it's been used for, will it be something that we might stumble upon? I would imagine not if we're going to see Sandringham.
Yeah, so the last time I was at Sandringham was in the days following the death of Her late Majesty. Yeah. And it is incredibly vast. It is almost, well, it's been compared as being the size of Nottingham. It's certainly in square mileage, a very large space. There are the areas which are public, and it's very unlikely, I think, that the public will see glimpses of Prince. It's taking a long time to get used to not calling him that, but. It's unlikely you're going to see Andrew roaming around at all. He's essentially, I suspect, going to be living a life in exile. Where he is due to live, Marsh Farm, is under renovation, so he's going to be living in temporary accommodation within the estate, and that will be very much in the private parts of the estate that are not open to the public, much like the Prince and Princess of Wales when they have previously occupied Amner Hall, which is also part of the Sandringham estate.
There is that really fine line that you touched upon quite beautifully, the difference between the royal family, the family, and the royal family, the institution. You mentioned that this is a very significant episode in the history of the royal family, and that we'll be talking about it and learning about it in school for years to come. I can't help but think of the late Queen. He was her favourite son. I don't know if she ever said that, but I think that's pretty much how he's considered. This is probably would have been a horrific thing for her, despite her understanding of who he was. Not something that she would have wanted to see, perhaps.
Well, Her late Majesty, of course, was aware of the allegations because Virginia Giuffre first made them almost 12 years ago. And indeed, there was the somewhat cataclysmic Newsnight interview that Andrew did with Emily Maitlis that really was the start of the downfall. And, of course, the out-of-court settlement of £12 million Her late Majesty was aware of as well. So I think it's fair to say that he brought immense disappointment on his mother. For it to now be at the level it's at, and with the late Majesty having passed almost 3.5 years ago, one can only imagine in her very advancing years. I mean, she would be 100 years old this year, and for her to be seeing her allegedly favourite son, because as you've rightly said, she never, to my recollection, said so publicly, but for her to be witnessing just what this is doing, not just to him as an individual, but the reputational collateral damage on the royal family that's occurred thus far, hence all of the actions that have been taken thus far, I think it's pretty insufferable for anybody to be enduring, let alone somebody of the significance that Her late Majesty had.
Ben, fascinating chat. What a time for you to be doing your job. Thank you so very much for giving us so much of your time. Ben Lord there, a royal commentator from Suffolk.